All right, so we are opening up our meeting for June 8th, 2021. It's the Groveland Government Study Committee.
Can I make a point of order?
Point of order, John.
I think we should say we're reopening our meeting, having achieved a quorum.
Okay, we have reopened the meeting. It was opened a few minutes ago, and one of the members was unable to stay on. But if it's not challenged, we can continue with just 3 of us on the committee. Does anyone challenge the status?
No.
Nope.
No? We'll continue. Let's open up the meeting. Do I have a motion to open up our meeting June 2nd, June 8th?
So moved.
Government Study Committee. Okay. Very good. All right. So let me now share with you. Also joining our meeting is Ruth Rivard, who is the chair of the Finance Committee. Thank you, Ruth, for participating. For the general public, Ruth is not a committee member, but she has been a key contributor of some really good ideas and helping us form the proposal that was accepted at the town meeting recently. So let me share the agenda first. And the agenda, here we are for tonight. We opened up the meeting at 5:48. We're going to review and approve the minutes for February 16th, March 8th. We're going to have an open discussion, a little bit of a debriefing session post-town meeting. Then we're going to review a draft that we would like to send to Senator Bruce Tarr and Representative Mira. It would be the special acts. This would be for Article, let's see if I remember, Article 4. And, but we'll talk about what interim steps should be taken. We don't want to just send it directly. The next item is I'd like to have a search committee discussion. I would like to ask the board for consent to allow me to represent, not myself as an individual or as a citizen, but as a member of this committee on the search committee for the first town administrator. And then that might be it. Administrator to be hired per Article 5, 4123A, votes will be taken. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes for February 16th and March 8th?
I move to approve them.
Second.
Okay, very good. And how do you vote? In favor,
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And I vote in favor, so that's unanimous. Okay. So now let's get to the second agenda item. I'm going to take a look at this special act that was drafted by our committee member, John Christopher. So let me project it for everyone to see. So here it is, just so that people can follow what we're doing here. As a reminder, there were 2 warrant articles. One of them is we asked the town to repeal the Department of Finance and Budget law, which created the finance director position back in 1998. We need to do that. We need to get rid of the, if you will, of that position. We have to eliminate that position to make room for a town administrator that would fall under a local bylaw that would be related to the proposal that we made, and then the modified version of it that was modified by town council that was approved, that may be approved sometime next year. So we have to do it in 2 steps. We first have to terminate or eliminate the finance director position. And then next year we'll come back. We have an act now that we're asking for your approval at town meeting, an act to support a town administrator according to our own bylaws. That work is 99% completed. It's on file. The town council has actually worked with us and our committee to actually complete that, but we can't implement that until we take step 1. Can't do step 2 before step 1. In the meantime, we're going to be held over. The Board of Selectmen are now free and clear to hire a town administrator immediately, because we can rely not on our own bylaw, which hasn't been created yet, but on an existing state law, which is section 4123A. So here, the town of Groveland, this was put together by John Christopher. Let me read it to you. It's kind of short. Section 1, Chapter 60 of the Acts of 1998 is hereby repealed. Section 2, a person holding a department of finance and budget appointment as assistant treasurer, assistant collector, town accountant, shall upon repeal of Chapter 60 of the Acts of 1998 continue to perform the duties of that office until further provisions have been made for the performance of those duties by another person or elimination of the position by any subsequent government reorganization. Any such person who continues in the full or part-time service, as the case may be in those offices, shall not forfeit pay grade or time in service as a result of this repeal. This act shall take effect upon its passage. So the essence of Section 2 is we want to make sure that somebody is minding the store.
And they get from that the idea that they're not, this
Place
repeal
of
is
the-
not gonna, eliminate them or their jobs until,
Yeah.
until somebody resigns or
Absolutely.
somebody's replaced or there's a new reorganization. I feel much more comfortable if Bill Hewig took a look at that. I don't want that to be interpreted perversely to guarantee tenure for anybody, so.
Mike, your opinion? You have any thoughts?
No,
Input?
it looks fine to me.
Without a necessary, unless we need to vote for it, I think, can we establish consent, and therefore what John Christopher has created here, I can email to Chairman Watson and ask him to please have Town Council Bill Hewig look at this and then ultimately get back to me so I can present it to the committee, this committee, that whatever version, whether it's this one or modified version, can be sent to Senator Tarr and Lenny Mara. We certainly don't want to do that directly unless the Board of Selectmen instructs us that way. But since we're under their charge, we don't want to go directly to the legislative team. We want to get the okay from the Board of Selectmen. And I think the Board of Selectmen would be well served if they get input from town. Yeah, Mike, okay.
Yep.
John? No?
That's fine. That's what I prefer.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, then that's what I'll do at the close of this meeting to Ed Watson. I'll copy Catherine. I'll ask them if they can, if Ed Watson, Chairman Watson would consider putting this on the agenda at the next available opportunity on the Board of Selectmen. And if they wish for me to come in and speak to them, I'd be happy to offer that as well. So. Good. Let's take a look at something else here. Ruth, tell us a little bit about your.
Joe, you
give
kind
us
of tell you about what?
a bit of a debriefing from your perspective about the full and helpful. We value your opinion and your thoughts. Did it go the way you wanted to see it go? Did we be pleased with it? Was there something missing? How do you feel?
With the vote at town meeting?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, I think it was a solid vote. I think that it was, when it was, for the first vote was, just verbal. I thought it was pretty clear that it was a majority vote, but then there was a request for count, which I think was a good thing, because I think it was about 3/4 to 1/4 or 2/3 to 1/3. And so I think that was a solid favor.
Good.
I think it was
Good.
79 for and 21 against. So I think we're almost 80%.
I think so.
If I remember, did you read out the letter? You wrote a beautiful letter that your committee wrote a really strong letter of support. And it was an appeal directly, not to the Board of Selectmen, but an appeal directly to the people. It was really well done. Did you read that out? I'm trying to remember.
I didn't read it out. I
No?
referred to it. I'm just trying to get some better reception in here because you keep cutting in and out.
Okay.
I referred to it because, I was trying to be conscious of time. So I referred to it, told everybody at a very high level
Mhm.
what it said. I said, it's in the packet that everybody received, go ahead and read it. But then I also just said, I tried to qualify our perspective of the board and what our board, the credentials of the people in our board, and that it was a unanimous vote and what have you. So I didn't read it, but
Mhm.
we published it on the website.
Yeah.
We published it
Right.
online. We published it on Facebook, and we handed it out to everybody.
Oh,
And
you
there were
did? I
people
didn't
that-
realize that. Good. That was,
And there were people that spoke against it, and I mean, that was expected. It was a good it was a healthy dialogue.
yeah, and I think the challenges that, the challenges that I addressed, I thought were, I had a sense, I had a feeling that many votes that said yes, and possibly some that said no, really made a decision that night too. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people will come into a town meeting already predisposed to how they're going to vote for something. They read about it, they know about it. They already know if it's yay or nay, but I was looking out
Breaking up,
when the
Joe.
debate, I thought was really hard. I had some number of people were making a decision right there that night. So,
Yeah.
but anyway. Okay, let's take a look at this item. This is the actual job posting of the town administrator. Again, for the general public, so they understand, we're not going to hire a town administrator under our bylaw because it's on file somewhere at the town meeting, town hall, because we first have to get a law signed by the governor of Massachusetts, approved by both Senate and the House. For a special act to repeal, or in layman's terms, eliminate. So I think that the choice for the search committee should be some department heads. I feel very strongly that nobody in the line of authority with the town administrator should be on the search committee. About it. I know you have a lot of experience. I've been on 3 search committees, actually 4 in my public life. Let me see, 1, 2, 4. Finance director, building inspector, and 2. So 1 superintendent and something else. So your thought about do's and don'ts about a search committee, because I would like our committee to have a voice, and perhaps collectively as a team, maybe mine in terms of who should be on and who should not be on. So, any thoughts, Mike?
Joe, you're breaking up a lot. So
Okay.
I'm not sure I
Let me
heard
see if
everything you said, but
Okay, let me see if I, maybe this stormy night is making things difficult. Let me go outside. This will probably work. Try this outside, okay? Hopefully this will work. The Bane, you're gonna maybe hear some birds, but hopefully we get stronger reception. How is that? Is that a little better?
I can hear you now.
Okay, so my thought about a search committee is I think that we as a team should perhaps, represent certain principles. And I would like to hear your thoughts of what some of those principles would be, Mike first and then John, but here are just a couple of mine. I think probably the most important thing is I think we should have at least one public member. And I think we should not have anyone that would be in the direct line of authority with the town administrator. In other words, we don't want to have on a search committee someone who the town administrator might be their boss. So, and I was also mentioning before I broke up that I've been on search committees before for superintendent, building inspector, finance director, and also a fire chief. So I've had some experience, and hopefully I can win your consent to represent our government study committee as a member, not as a private citizen, but as a member and representative of our committee to be on the search committee. So Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah. So my feeling is that we really need someone who is a team builder, because it's my sense that, and it continues, unfortunately, that we don't have a team at town hall. Nobody probably wants to admit that, but we've got a lot of good people working there, but it's not viewed as a team, and the former finance director was very skillful, had many positive attributes, and I'm not trying to put her down, but a lot of it existed then. And so I think that's got to change, because people come into town hall and depending upon what department they're going to, they don't get the answers they want, or people ignore them. And I think we need an administrator that's going to pull everything together and get everyone working in the same direction to solve the problems for our residents. That's going to be the top priority, not how many hours you put in this week versus somebody else or some other crazy thing. So that's, I feel, is the most important thing. And the other thing I'll say is, personally, I don't think that we're going to pay enough. I think the 90 to 120 range is going to get us somebody in the inexperienced end of things, which is obviously not always a bad thing, but I just think we're kind of lowballing it.
Interesting. I'm going to have Ruth chime in afterwards on that point, but John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think what Mike said is correct. To me, I encapsulate by saying it's all about leadership. And I think when we spoke to one town administrator who we consulted with, he kind of indicated that people who are more into municipal finance, such as finance directors, they tend to have less leadership skills because they're more focused on the financial aspect of the job. And so I think the town administrator should be just the opposite, a real leader who knows government, understands the overall financial picture, that can rely on a treasurer or assistant treasurer and collector type situation and go in that direction. As far as the salary, the low end 90,000, we now have a town accountant that's going to get 88,000. So I don't think that's going to look too good for paying a town administrator 2,000 more. I saw a situation where an assistant to the mayor, a mayor's administrative assistant, a young person, that person, after about 6 years as the administrator, jumped right out of a big city and went over to become the town administrator in Plastow. And now he is the town administrator in Swampscott. So I think sometimes for a town this size, a young up-and-coming person who really wants to start making a name for himself would probably work. I think 120 fits that category. I think the problem is always going to be, this is going to be a way station for people. They'll come here, work 5, 6 years, and then move on. The important thing, what I see in these town government situations, as a prime example, there's one community to the south of us, much larger, that has a board of selectmen, town manager situation. And up until about 10 years ago, they had a revolving door of town managers because they constantly, board of selectmen constantly interfered with the way this person was trying to do their job. On the alternative, the town of Danvers, which I'm very familiar with, since the Korean War, they've had 4 town managers. And the motto of the Board of Selectmen has always been, let the manager manage. So if you get a person in there who has good leadership skills and you let that person go on a daily basis, maybe set policy for him, her, maybe set goals for that person, which would factor into any type of pay raise. I think it will work. And, but I'm looking for a leader, a real leader, a people person who can make people feel good about their job, let people know that he or she has that person's back if there's a problem. Not somebody who will throw them under the bus. If someone's sub-performing, they'll be counseled. They won't just be cut loose. So that's my feeling of this job.
I feel like I've been struck by lightning twice. I mean, I've only known 2 finance directors, Greg Lebrecht and Denise, and I think you both bring up really good points. They were people persons also, plus the technical skill. But I understand now what you're saying is that we need to have someone a little heavy on the people skills, because we do have a team. We do have a financial team on the ground, and we'll formulate, a strong financial team. So I think that gives me a lot to think about if I'm going to represent this committee, and I will honor what you just said. I think that's really important. Appreciate that. Now you're making me worry about the money, so let's have Ruth chime in. Help me with my concern about the money.
Well, I do think that John makes a good point that, we had targeted 120. I do think starting the range at 90, given that the town accountant is now earning pretty much that, probably doesn't look right. So perhaps that range should be adjusted a bit toward the higher end of the range.
Yeah, Mike brings up another good point. I mean, what are we going to buy? Per se, do we want? We're probably not going to hire or can afford a 30-year experienced person, but we may.
No, and
may
that's
not want
fine.
Somebody completely out of school either. Maybe 3 to 5 years experience somewhere.
Yeah, we want somebody with some experience, and we want somebody who's going to be eager, who is going to want to make a difference, who is going to want to work well with the team, who is going to be digitally competent, who is going to be independent. I think all of those things. And I think that that's possible with somebody who is taking a stepping stone. And if we get 5 or 6 years out of them, given what our budget allows and what our town demands, I think that's okay. If we find that's the niche we're in, I think that we need to put parameters around making that work. And I think that's okay. But I also think that we have to just find ways to accept and acknowledge our town and our budget for what it is. And I think constantly comparing our town to our neighbors due to proximity isn't necessarily the fair comparison. And that's a hard thing. It's a hard thing, but we don't have the budget West Newbury has, and some of our other towns, we just don't. So, and we're just trying to continue to walk that line and to find ways to keep progressively moving us forward.
It seems to me that I've understood this. There's been some proliferation, if you will. Proliferation is the word, of internally conducted salary surveys done by employees. And it puts everyone at a disadvantage if an employee feels that we're hurting them in some way because we're underpaying them by some factor that's rooted in some unfairness. But I think you're right, Ruth.
just because we live next door to any one of the Pentucket towns or the Newburyport town or the Newburys. You know, the geography is meaningless. It's the structure of the town and how we're financed. Like, for example, we don't have much of a business base.
That's right.
You know, that's a huge problem. We've been so anti-business, and this is
That's right.
and now I'm editorializing a little bit. Might not get everybody to agree, but we've not been friendly to businesses, and we have a terrible business base compared to Georgetown. And
That's right.
and
And whether, you know, good, bad, or indifferent,
yeah,
the town voted against the marijuana cultivators, and that's where we are. But that's bringing in a lot of revenue for some other towns.
So,
And
yeah,
that's
so
just
if we-
one example of the varied revenue bases from other towns, and we don't have that. So we're continuing to try to make work what we have. And we can do it. I just think we need to, you know, understand it. And there's also, I feel that the competitiveness of our wages became a large issue this year. I don't feel that it was such a sore issue last year or the year before. So I think I just didn't want to make a lot of those changes in an interim situation. And this is what the town administrator, this is going to be one of their charges in what I would like to see anyways, is to have a fair, comprehensive study done. But it also needs to be done by somebody who's overseeing these employees. I mean, I never got paid what my colleagues were getting paid and vice versa for individual reasons. It has to do with experience. It has to do with longevity. It has to do with contribution. And I'm not saying that any one person has or hasn't done that. Sorry, I got on a little bit of a tangent. I don't mean to.
You know, I feel that I take the position that a job is only worth so much, taking into account you know, the background of the person, the responsibilities they have. Certainly, an administrative position at a larger community has a lot more responsibility. Smaller town, there's less responsibility in the sense of maybe a workload and things to look after.
Right.
I also think too, it's just a very simple example. We pay airline pilots big money to fly big jets, and the fellows that fly the small propeller planes get paid less money because the job doesn't, that type of job is only worth so much.
Yeah.
I think
Ruth,
if
you gave
people are
me-
unhappy with their salaries after a certain point, it's maybe time, you know, to move on to bigger and better things.
So you three have given me another thought.
it's almost like a formula. If we can maybe hire someone with 3 to 5 years experience and they hang out for 5 to 6 years, that's an easy formula to understand. And
Yeah, I think that's what our town, I think we can offer a stepping stone. But again, there has to be policies and parameters in place to allow somebody of that profile to succeed.
And I think the next person we hire, therefore, that's a key project for them. We want to conduct a comprehensive, fair job salary review. And and sometimes people, and I'm not accusing anybody, but I've heard it at meetings, people say, well, a town of this size, the XYZ position gets paid here and our town only pays that. Well, it's not just the size of the town. It's more like income. I think of it, I'm a financial person. I think of it as income. People's salaries are going to be defined by the revenue, not the income is the wrong word, but the revenue of the town from all tax base, and then what comes from the state, local aid.
But I think it's also
generate through
important to
P.
say, it doesn't mean that we're going to underpay or that we're going to hire subpar people. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that our salary survey said that, look, Kevin Pecos suggested 105 for the town administrator position. We budgeted 120. Denise was earning 120 when she left. So I think it's a fair starting place.
And I
we'll
think-
see.
I'm sorry, Ruth.
We'll see what we get.
That individual in the other community that we spoke to was a town administrator. The number 120 sticks out in my mind that he was, just thinking out loud about what a town administrator in a town this size should be paid. So I don't think 120 is too far off.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
And this is going to be an opportunity for somebody who's maybe assistant town manager.
Yeah.
Even if he's making 115,000 as the assistant, this is his turn to get into a position to show that he can handle the whole thing. And like I said, 5 or 6 years from now, he may be town manager in Newton or Brookline, someplace like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now just to the two committee members, I'm applying for the job. Do I?
Yeah, you have my blessing.
Would you, could I get your consent to represent our committee? Unless, Mike, you want to do it. And I would yield to you, absolutely.
Well, I mean, I'm not looking to be on more committees, believe me. But, certainly if they're interested in finding people, I don't know how many they plan on getting, I mean, I'm willing to do it, but I'm not going to pursue it, frankly, so.
So thank you. This is what I'll do then. When the search committee is underway, I'll, at some point in the process before we hire someone, I'll call for a meeting of this group so I can give you an update. How's that?
That's fine.
So you don't have to look for it on television. I'll debrief the search committee process to this committee. And somewhere between now and the next few weeks, we may also hear from the legislative team. And we may have to convene on that too. Once the special act. So I think that unless we have anything else to add, I think that could be a wrap for tonight. What I'll do is I'll send that special acts that was written up by John. I'll send it to the Chairman Watson because I broke up a little bit earlier. I want people not to be confused. We're going to go again. I'm going to be a little repetitive. We're going to hire, the town is going to hire, is already to hire a town administrator under an existing state law. That's going to hold us over until someday we can hire a town administrator under our own bylaw. That work is already done. It's on file. It was done by the town council in our committee. But we have to hold off on that because we first have to have a law signed by the governor, approved by the House and the Senate, that state, that says, hey, we can, eliminate the finance director position. That would be Article 4 that was approved at town meeting. And Article 5 gives green light to the Board of Selectmen to hire a town administrator now with existing state laws. So no votes were taken tonight. We've done everything by consent, which is my favorite way to run a meeting. And it's a sign of a high performance team. And I hope that that's acceptable to the public. And Ruth, thank you for your input. Always.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ruth.
Sure
Really good work.
thing.
Mike, thanks for jumping on. I know you're on a million committees. Part of this town is going to shut down when you're no longer around in 100 years. But, and John, thank you. I want to just be public about this. John did an unbelievable amount of work on all the writing and that, most of the writing that was done, he and John Osborne. I was an editor in chief, but I did very little writing. I just did a lot of editing. So, but thank you, John, for your service. And so the public knows John was, again, part of the history of Groveland because he was involved in that committee in 1996 to put a special act together for a finance director.
Oh, were you, John? I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when that became, so that was,
I was chairman of the committee.
yeah. So thank you. So, those big dates that I mentioned at town meeting, those are big historic years for us. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Plus, I was on the committee to expand the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5. And I was on the Nuns Hill Committee, which was World War III.
That was World War III, I heard. Yeah, we should have a storyline on that. Yeah. But anyways, thank you very much. Do I have a motion to close our meeting tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, okay. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
very
Good night.
good. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good
Bye-bye
night.
now. All righty,
Yeah,
bye-bye.
bye.